Let's check in with Peter King. Football Night in America, NBC Sports does a terrific job with them over there. Peter, let me ask you, do you understand what Matt Nagy was talking about after the game when it came to that particular situation?
You know, Chris, I wrote about this in my column today, and I basically said, look, I did not talk to Matt Nagy. I don't know in anything more than a speculative way why he did what he did, but I am going to interpret it because I've covered it for 35 years. I think I know why coaches do certain things, okay? When the Chicago Bears were at the 21-yard line and Mitchell Trubisky, with 43 seconds to go, and Mitchell Trubisky took a snap and he kneeled down, which actually lost a yard. It took him a yard further away from a field goal. So when he did that, what Matt Nagy was saying, and the reason why he dismissed it so out of hand, is that he can't be seen as having any lack of confidence in his offense, in his running game, in his quarterback. So by him basically saying, what are you talking about? This is unquestioned. This is what you would do, which is the silliest thing I've ever heard in my life. And anybody who's watched football for 15 minutes knows it's silly. That if you have a chance, instead of kicking a 41-yard field goal, to kick a 24-yard field goal, of course you're going to do that. Why would you choose to kick a field goal from a further distance? And the fact that he had one timeout and 43 seconds to go and chose not to go closer to the goal line to make the field goal easier for his field goal kicker, to me, this is just me, deep down inside, he has zero confidence in Mitchell Trubisky playing productive turnover-free football. That's what I inferred. And Chris, I'll just say one other thing. Even if you have no confidence in your offense, there are ways, very incredibly low-risk ways, to try to get extra yards. Among them, you've got one of the shiftiest running backs there is, Tariq Cohen, who does not have a fumbling problem. Figure a way to try to get him on the edge, and if he can't get any extra yards, dive into the line and just move on. But I just think that he doth protest too much.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, low-risk possibility of running straight up the middle. It doesn't send a great message to your offense.
Or Trubisky throwing the ball to the sideline, or making a very low-risk throw. But I think it's just a sign that he just doesn't trust his offense right now to do anything.
I wondered, Peter, and I thought the reporters in Chicago did a good job of asking him specific questions after the game. I wonder if he believes any of the things he was saying. Like, throw the ball, why would we? Could have an interception. Run the ball, why would we? I mean, this guy's been around. He was a pretty good coach last year. I wonder if he believes any of this.
And I like Matt Nagy. I really do. I know him. And I think he's in a situation right now. I mean, I theorize it. I put it this way. Let's use the two quarterbacks who were picked below, who were picked after Mitchell Trubisky in the 2017 draft, Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Do you think Bill O'Brien or Andy Reid, with 43 seconds and one timeout left, would have kneeled on the ball and chosen the 41-yard field goal? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. And so I just think he's in a tough situation with a quarterback who's having a crisis of confidence, and he can't trust. And I don't blame Matt Nagy for not trusting Trubisky. Trubisky has been a nightmare. And so now you have to just determine what's our best chance to win this game this week. And that's why, last Monday in my column, I wrote, if I were Matt Nagy, I would seriously consider starting Chase Daniel against the Los Angeles Chargers. His only job right now is not the fragile psyche, not managing the fragile psyche of his quarterback. It's doing everything he can to save his season. They're 3-4 right now. And as I pointed out this morning, just imagine if at Denver, the fairly controversial decision of putting 1 second back on the clock so Eddie Pinheiro could kick a 53-yard field goal to win. Imagine if that 1 second wasn't put on the clock right now. The Chicago Bears would be 2-5 this week, headed into a game at Philadelphia that probably, you look at the two teams now, I think the Bears are likely to lose. Imagine them being 2-6 and having their season over basically on Halloween.
Talking to Peter King, NBC Sports Football Morning in America, does a terrific job over there. Peter, I'm watching the Browns game last night and not surprised that they lose to New England, but that's a sloppy playing team. Another penalty-filled team. And I couldn't help but think, what if Hugh Jackson was coaching that team? What would we be saying about Hugh Jackson that maybe we're not saying right now about Freddie Kitchens?
They demand he'd be fired. And I think the only reason there isn't similar demand is that I think Freddie Kitchens is new. He's coached 7 games. You're not going to fire a guy after 7 games. But I think Freddie Kitchens is smart enough to know that if he puts up a 5-11 on the results scoreboard this year, there'd be real question about whether he'd come back in 2021 or 2020 rather. He's having a very Ben McAdoo type of year, honestly, and I kind of, in his second year, not his first year, and I kind of look at the Browns, and before the year, I remember getting absolutely skewered by Cleveland fans. I didn't pick the Browns to make the playoffs, and my point was that there is a huge difference between playing 15 games at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and having the 5th CBS crew do your game every week. And basically nobody paying any attention to you other than, the legions of Browns fans around the country. There's a difference between that and having 3 of your first 5 games put in prime time. 1 on NBC Sunday Night Football, 2 of them on Monday Night Football. In the first 5 weeks of the season, every game that you play, everybody in America is paying attention. There's a big difference. Everybody said, oh, what does that mean? What do you mean? What is that? No. It means a lot. How do you handle the white-hot spotlight? And the Cleveland Browns are not handling it at all. And the other thing, they are not disciplined in a football sense. That's coming back to haunt them right now.
Peter, you look at the AFC, and there seems to be a pretty clear hierarchy with the Patriots, the Chiefs at the top 2 positions. Out in the NFC, 5 teams with at least 6 wins. How do you peg the order? Who's the best team in the NFC?
One of the things when I look at the schedule down the stretch, just look at if you are the San Francisco 49ers right now and you're trying to look a little bit down the road, look at weeks 12, 13, and 14. You play 3 teams with a combined 19-4 record. You play New Orleans, Baltimore, and Green Bay. I think I got the order wrong. You play Green Bay at home, and then you play Baltimore and New Orleans on the road, and that is going to be, a real big test it would be for any team. And now for the 49ers being 7-0. Look, the 49ers have been great. They're darlings right now, and they should be. To beat Carolina and put up 51 points on them and basically call off the Dogs, it could have been worse. That was an amazing performance by the Niners. But, in the last however many weeks of the season, in the last 8 weeks of the season, they got Seattle twice, the Rams once, they got Green Bay, they got New Orleans. They have one heck of a tough schedule in the last half of this season. We'll see how they do. I think they have the advantage right now, but it's all it's who gets hot down the stretch. That's who's going to win home field advantage in the NFC. And Chris, I'll say one other thing. can you imagine if you're having the kind of year that Green Bay and New Orleans is having? Green Bay, New Orleans, and San Francisco, all of them can't get home field in the NFC. One of those three teams is going to be playing on Wild Card weekend with no bye. So, I mean, there is a lot to play for in the last half of the season at the top of the NFC.
Yeah, a lot of parity in the NFC with the NFL trade deadline. What's it, tomorrow coming up? There's been some moves
Tomorrow,
already.
4 p.m.
You expecting a busy trade deadline?
I am. I've been writing about this a lot. I wrote a lot about it last week, that I think a lot of things have changed in the NFL. 10 years ago, in the entire calendar year, 2009, there were 39 trades involving players. This year, so far, as of the Kenyon Drake trade this morning from Miami to Arizona, there have been 60 trades. I think there's going to be between 65 and 70 by the close of business on Tuesday. And I just think teams believe now that the draft is not this incredible holy grail. If they have a hole to fill, in the middle of October, they're going to go out and try to fill it with a player. Arizona's really not playing for anything, other than respectability. But they say, hey, we'll go out and improve our team by getting a running back, and who knows? Kenyon Drake might be a part of this team for the next 2 or 3 years.
I'll get you out of here with this. Watch the Titans against the Bucs last night. Little depressing watching those two teams in a game that was pretty high profile just 4 years ago. If you had to buy stock in the future of one quarterback, Mariota or Jameis Winston, who would you take?
Well, Mariota right now is a penny stock, Chris. He's almost certainly not going to regain his job in Tennessee and will be on the free agent market after this season. He's probably going to have to take the Ryan Tannehill route of going somewhere as a backup and hoping at some point he gets another chance. Jameis Winston right now still has his future in Tampa in his hands. If he plays well the rest of the year and limits his turnovers, I would expect that he will get a short-term contract to continue in Tampa. But that is absolutely not a sure thing. If he's the turnover machine he has been in his first 4.5 years, then the Bucs will probably look elsewhere too. But as of right now, he's the only one of the two who has a chance to stay with his team, I would think, beyond this year.
Dan Quinn survived the season?
I mean, maybe, but what does that mean? I think Arthur Blank just wants to make it go away. He wants to wave a magic wand and make the pain go away. But I keep hearing that Arthur Blank might be in the mood to blow it all up, the entire organization. They're in salary cap hell next year, and they're going to have a bad team. So I can't tell you what's going to happen, whether he'll survive the year. But whether he does or not, he's going to make a coaching change at the end of this year at the very latest.
What do you think that means for Matt Ryan?
That's a good question. If I were Matt Ryan, I would love it to be blown up. Matt Ryan's going to be a productive player no matter who the coach is. He needs somebody to come in and take these defensive parts, these disparate defensive parts and make it into a good cohesive team. They got a couple of excellent players led by Grady Jarrett on defense, and their defense stinks. They're going to have to do it with low-cost players in undrafted and real free agency because they're not going to have any money to spend in free agency. So I think it just means that Matt Ryan stays, and Matt Ryan becomes the cornerstone, he and Julio Jones, of the rebuild.
Always great to talk to you, Peter. I appreciate the time.
All the best, Chris. Take care.
All right. It's Peter King, Football Morning in America, NBC Sports, joining us here on The Dan Patrick Show. If you missed any of our celebrity interviews this week from the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, just go to the Dan Patrick app. You can watch and listen from inside the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave. Mercedes-AMG, driving performance.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune into Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV. Stream for free on BR Live or download the Dan Patrick Show app.